Coming to you live from deep within an icy, radioactive wasteland, we're the survivors of the social justice zombie apocalypse, the few, the brave, the britchy. Once more wading into battle against the zombie hordes with Rantzerker number 34. I'll give you something to cry about.
Maybe it's britchy. You just have that in your head because of Sarkeesian's last video. It was all about butts and britches and
the britches.
But
I thought we were supposed to say happy the opposite day.
We're just trying something new, hosting the odd thing from the Rantzerkers on my channel here. So hope you guys are okay with that. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll have some updates and announcements hopefully tomorrow on just what's going on with me. So which is, maybe you don't want to hear about it, what all is going on with me, but I do want to share. So, all right. Let me just call up this travesty of a video. Oh wait, I got to share screen first. Fuck.
You have all the controls.
Okay. Do I want? Okay, I don't want to share this. I don't want to share that. What? Fine. Oh, here. I'll share this though first. This is the
okay. Remember to select yourself.
Oh, I gotta select myself. What? No. Yes. Wait. Never mind. Never fucking mind. I can't make it work.
What the hell was with the sandwich?
What?
Here's this fucking sandwich. You had a sandwich on the screen.
Yeah. Did everybody get to see it?
Yeah, we saw the sandwich, I think.
That's what I was sharing. The sandwich.
You wanted to share the sandwich.
I did.
Okay. Well, why? Okay, well, but the thing is, we have something on the agenda. Let's get to it. Let's no more sandwiches.
Okay, it was a beautiful sandwich. I took a picture of it
last night. It was a fucking beautiful sandwich. It looked delicious. Of course, I can't eat bread, so it just serves to tease me, but you know, especially since I'm feeling hungry and I'm waiting on my husband's making, I think, lemon pepper ribs, maybe? Yes.
Do you want me to tell you what was on the sandwich? Okay, it was grilled. It was on grilled Texas toast, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Warmed Black Forest ham and warmed deli chicken, but cold slices of cheese set on either side of them, and then lettuce and tomato, and you eat it really fast before the cheese melts, so you get this really, really interesting combination of warm and cold and textures, and so it's like sort of a grilled but not grilled cheese club sandwich thingy.
And you took a picture of it because it was that glorious.
Oh yeah. Actually, okay. My son and I made it for his foods class, and we had to take a picture of it. So.
Ooh. Okay. All right. I believe you, but let's get down to business.
Okay.
Yay. Ooh.
Okay, business. Oh, we're playing this now?
Yes!
Okay, I thought you said you had other business or something.
No, I have no business except doing this.
Okay. Then
all right.
Let's fucking straighten our shit out. And, yeah.
Stop crying. Stop with the tears.
Don't cry.
Pick yourself up. Stop with the emotions.
Don't be a pussy.
Don't let nobody disrespect you. Be cool and be kind of a dick.
Always keep your mouth shut. Nobody likes a tattletale.
Bros come before hoes.
Don't let your woman run your life.
You a bitch.
What a fact.
Get laid. Do something.
Be a man. Be a man.
Grow some
a lot of this is good advice.
Well, generally it's advice, assume the posture of being stoic. And also, nobody likes a tattletale. In fact, they don't even like women who are tattletales.
Yeah, no. Like the whole tattletale thing, that's like, oh my goodness, there's this misogynist, let's get him booted off of Twitter. Like, that's a tattletale. That's abusing the system in order to bully people. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to tell an adult when you're a kid if something really is going on. But a tattletale, you know, if there are some problems that just aren't worth engaging the authorities over, right?
Yeah, well, and then there's some,
People who do that are called tattletales.
yeah, yeah, and often tattletales will make shit up too. They're not actually tattling on anything outside of their own brain.
Oh,
But the others, like, they went through a whole bunch of stuff. This is another one of those shithose situations where they just spew a whole bunch of shit and then don't give you time to respond to it. So why don't we do you want to go back and respond to each one, or should we do that? Because then we'll end up doing this for like 3 hours.
We'll just do a few and then we'll respond. Because I mean, like some
So
of
like
them are eating the same shit, right?
Yeah.
Stop crying. Stop with the tears.
Don't cry.
Pick yourself up. Stop.
Okay.
Okay, stop. Stop crying. All right. Well, you know, if you're going to essentially dismiss all of the problems and issues that men and boys face, well,
What's
the patriarchy, patriarchy, male privilege, rape culture, all that shit is basically telling men that their problems don't matter. So what, do you want them to cry over problems that you won't acknowledge they have?
That's right. That's the whole juxtaposition, you know, like these boys, right? When they're being told these things and they end up learning, right? And as a girl, because my mom didn't tolerate crying for no good reason. And I mean, like that whole, I'll give you something to cry about. She used to say that to me all the time. You know, stop crying or I'll give you something to actually cry about, something worth crying about. Because, you know, kids throwing a tantrum. You ever see that freaking commercial for Zazu condoms with the kid flipping his shit in the grocery store? Just like ripping the place apart because he wants the candy and his dad won't get the candy for him, right? And the dad's just looking so uncomfortable, and then they're just like, condoms, use them, right? Yeah, like kids need to learn some form of self-control, and they need to learn that their feelings are not the center of every human being's universe, right? Like, other things matter more than how you feel right this moment about, I mean, I even remember like the other day walking into the Safeway and there was this really, really frustrated looking woman and she's got her little 2-year-old daughter by the hand in a snowsuit. And this kid is just trying to like, you know, drag her feet and everything. And she's just screaming at the top of her lungs, I want gum! I want gum! I want gum! Right? Like, yeah, no, you can fucking stop crying right now. Like, kids need to learn how to control their emotions. Otherwise, they end up being petty tyrants. And
well, yeah, unless that they're in training to become petty tyrants.
Yeah, well, and so essentially what these boys, they're also being prepared for that day when their voice cracks and they sprout that little bit of facial hair, you know, that day when the male suicide rate just shoots sky high because that's the day the male tears coffee mugs come out, right? And the generation of young men, right, who are most likely to have been raised with an ethic of it's okay for you to cry. It's okay for you to have your feelings. Your feelings matter just as much as girls' feelings, and all of those things, right? They are the most likely generation in recent history to commit suicide when they hit adolescence. I wonder why, because that's when people, they lose what little children's privilege they had, and that's when the male tears coffee mugs. The same people who were telling them your feelings matter are going to be the ones sipping from that mug, right? And
well, that's what they want. They want boys to cry, so they have plenty. They need to refresh their mugs of male tears.
So
God forbid the male tears be, you know, lacking in supply. I mean, how can you mock boys for crying if they're not crying?
Part of being a parent is preparing your kids for what they can expect in adulthood. And if boys can expect zero sympathy in adulthood when they're having, you know, a problem that makes them cry, then the best thing that you can do is teach them strategies on how to control and deal with their own emotions without doing that thing that just makes people ridicule and mock and despise them. Right.
Well, and feminists really aren't changing this. I mean, let's look at the social role that boys are supposed to assume on becoming an adult. They have to be able to accept a relationship with a woman that is fraught with all kinds of legal peril. Should she be abusive? Should she be the kind of person who is willing to level a false accusation and get all of the government behind punishing him for being an alleged abuser? I mean, there's all kinds of legal peril for men in assuming a relationship with a woman. If we were concerned, if feminists were really concerned about men's emotional states, they would say, hey, this is way too much. This is way too much peril, too perilous for men. And they would actually embrace the kind of legislation and the kind of social change that would give men protections against abusive women, particularly abusive women that use the system to abuse men, but they don't.
No.
They don't care about this vulnerability or this danger or this source of tears that men will have as they grow up. And then there's other things that men have to accept about their role, their social and legal and political role in life. And that is that they will not have the right to choose when they're when they become a father. Not only will they not have the right to choose when they become a father. For example, if a man has a woman who's pregnant and she has an abortion, he has no say, and fair enough, it's her body. However, he can experience significant sense of loss from that, just like any parent mourning a child that's dead. That once again, feminists will not acknowledge the pain and the tears in that.
No,
they'll say that he's illegitimate.
Yeah,
and they'll say, no, suck it up. Suck it up. That's you just have to accept, and you can't even be upset about it. Yeah. You just have to numbly accept her decision, and this is what they're requiring from men. Numbly accept her abuse. Numbly accept the possibility that she can send you to jail based on an allegation that has no proof. Numbly accept her choice to abort a child that you wanted. Numbly accept it. I mean, even if you have to accept it, you should do it numbly. And then numbly accept if she decides to terminate your relationship with your children. Numbly accept that, and numbly accept that you are simply now a paycheck in your children's lives. You have to be able to numbly accept all of this. What do you think the kind of socialization that men and boys require in order to numbly accept the social and legal realities that feminists support?
Well, I think we should encourage them to express their feelings and cry and, make themselves vulnerable and, expose their weaknesses and do all of that, because it's much more fun beating the shit out of somebody who's weak, who has no ability to defend himself, for feminists, right? So.
But I just find the hypocrisy incredible, because feminists will accept all of these situations or they'll say that, we should keep these legal and social expectations on men that create these incredible vulnerabilities and these incredible points where men will experience tragedy and sorrow. And we should just keep that. We should keep that socialization. We should just keep that whole situation that men have to accept upon becoming adulthood.
And if they get upset about it.
And then simultaneously we'll say, if you get upset about this situation, then we'll just mock you for male tears. You're a men's rights activist.
Or if you get upset about it, you're actually victimizing the woman who did this to you.
Exactly.
So,
so they're simultaneously saying that boys should be able to cry, but also boys should be accepting this legal situation that feminists support putting men into.
Yeah.
And they should accept it without any complaint.
Mm-hmm.
Choose one, feminist. Do you want a sensitive slave, or do you want to beat him to the point where he's calloused? Just decide on one.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
With the emotion.
Don't be a pussy.
Don't let nobody disrespect you. Be cool and be kind of a dick. Always keep it.
Okay. Be cool.
Be cool and be kind of a dick.
Well, apparently that's what gets you laid, so.
Well, I mean, actually, I think that, in my opinion, if I were to analyze this, I would say that being cool and being kind of a dick is what you tell a group of people that's expected to revolve their actions around the benefit of another group of people. Sure. So it's sort of like trying to push back a little bit on that socialization so that they feel like they have some space to be themselves.
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe.
Yeah,
Right,
maybe.
Bros come before hoes.
Don't let your woman run your life.
Don't
Dad.
let your woman run your life. Oh, why wouldn't you want to let your woman run your life? I can.
Look at the reverse.
Don't let your man run your life. Don't you let
That's like a feminist statement.
do what you can and can't do.
Exactly. Like, I'm not going to be offended at anything that if you reverse would just fit right into the feminist corpus.
Yeah, no, sorry, me neither.
Bitch.
Yeah.
Do something. Be a man. Be a man. Grow some balls.
Okay, so grow some. I'd say that to women too. Grow some balls. I mean, like,
You know what
honestly,
is on the inside.
well, I mean, like, it would be really nice to, have a situation where we didn't have this constant whining and complaining about how, oh, I feel unsafe walking at night. Yeah, well, grow a pair. Right?
Everyone does.
Grow a pair, ladies. Growing a pair, right, is euphemistic for having the mettle to face life's challenges.
As an adult. That's what growing a pair literally means. It literally means you have the hormonal system of an adult.
Your balls have actually dropped. They've grown some hair, and they've gotten bigger, and yeah, they're hanging a little lower than they did when you were like 4 years old. Oh my goodness, you grew a pair. God.
Yeah, we just need to make this female inclusive as well.
Yeah.
Mature your ovaries to the point where they're popping out some eggs, for fuck's sake. Then they're not shriveled like little fucking raisins.
God.
Your ovaries are as shriveled as currants. Like, I wish we would get something like that going, so we could actually hold women to the same standard. Because if we did hold women to the same standard as men, or at least something closer,
yeah,
maybe pull back on the expectations of stoicism for men and beef up the expectations of acting like you've attained some fucking adult hormonal balance as a woman. Because ladies,
maybe the closest we have for that is like pull up your big girl pants.
yeah, well, I think it should relate to the ovaries. I mean, there's some women out there who basically look like they haven't popped an egg their entire fucking life. They're just whiny little girl babies.
Yeah.
And that's all they can do is whine like a girl. It's like they have never had the hormones that actually make them adult women. I mean, I know that we're more emotional, and I know that we can, at certain times of the month you can get really feisty, but still, an adult woman should act like it.
Yeah. Well,
set aside.
She should not hold others responsible for her emotional state. Like I say, when I feel like I'm getting into that state of, PMSing, I actually let my boyfriend know, right? Feeling really cranky, it's hormones, it's not you, it's nothing you're doing. If I snap at you, do not apologize to me, because it's not anything that you did, right? I will come and apologize to you later. I guarantee it, because it's me, it's not you. And I try really hard not to do that, and he goes out of his way to not apologize, and it blows over, and
Bob's your uncle.
And we're good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I have the same thing. There's a certain time in the month that you start to get crabby at everything. It's like, why am I so fucking pissed off at everything? Oh, okay, right, all right,
yeah.
All right. Well, don't. No, you just contain the damage, and but that's the actions of an adult. Even if you have hormonal issues, the actions of the adult is to contain the damage. The actions of the child is to throw a tantrum like you're after a lollipop.
Yeah, and make your spouse or your partner beg for your forgiveness and capitulate and give you everything that you want, all the irrational things that you want, which, like, often when you're in this hormonal state, you want two different things, two opposite things at one time. You want a hug, but you don't want to be touched, and it's just, you just have to try to calm yourself down, make sure that they know that it's not you, and and I'm not even talking about, because I don't really yell at him or anything like that. Just when I'm a little snippy, I don't like the way I am when I'm like that, and I don't want him to feel like he has to apologize for my bad behavior. Like,
Yeah, I think also men have hormonal changes too.
oh
Like
yeah,
that. Supposedly their changes are daily. Like they have I guess a high, maybe a low in the morning or high in mid afternoon or something.
Oh, there are times when he's absolutely 100%. It's something else. It's work or whatever that's bothering him, or whatever, and or his blood pressure's gone up again for the last 3 days, and he's worried about that or whatever, and he'll get snippy with me, and he always comes to me and says, he'll call me later and he'll say, I was just really cranky and I'm sorry I didn't mean to snap at you. And I'm just like, it's okay. I know that you got stress in your life. And,
we got something funny from the chat.
What?
MGTOW Indian says, I wonder how Alison is during PMS. She's scary on any given day. Well, I can tell you one thing. I can assure you of one thing. My husband is not scared of me.
Yeah, no. That's one of those things, like I'm same with me and mine. Like there is absolutely, and my boyfriend scares the fuck out of people. But he doesn't intimidate me at all, and doesn't matter how mad he is, doesn't intimidate me, and it's the same way with me, right? So I don't intimidate him at all. So yeah.
No, I don't think I don't really intimidate my husband much. I think I think I vaguely irritate him. I'm not exactly sure why he's stuck around me for 18 years, because I seem to mostly irritate him. But yeah, whatever.
Makes you
he
feel
still
alive.
feeds me, so
makes you feel alive. It makes you feel alive,
Well, it keeps me on my toes.
And keeps
No, I'm kidding.
Keeps the relationship from going completely emotionally dead.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean it's like you try to listen and hear their his side of the story and everything, but it's I don't know, I can't articulate it. It works. He feeds me, and I'll stick around as long as he does, and there you go.
Oh, that's what
it'll probably stick around even if he wasn't feeding me. Actually,
my boyfriend says that she feeds me, and as long as she does that, I'll stick around. So,
okay.
All right. Okay, moving on.
The three most destructive words that every man receives when he's a boy is when he's told to be a man.
Okay, can I get some of the etymology of be a man, of the word man? Man just means gender-neutral adult. So you're just telling a kid, be an adult. The real shame is that we don't tell the same thing to girls. Fucking destructive? Hardly. What we do to girls is fucking destructive. Be a child for the rest of your life. Throw tantrums and you'll get shit. And then you wonder why they don't achieve a damn thing, because they haven't been given the fucking tools to attain an adult level of self-regulation. Jesus fucking Christ. The reason...
It's essentially like be a man is, I mean, like there are certain attributes that go along with be a man that don't go along with be a woman. So, I mean, like maybe some of those, maybe they'll explore some of those things that can be harmful to men.
Yeah, but telling kids to become adult, which is essentially what this is, and the real shame is that we don't do the same for girls.
Yeah.
Or at least we don't tie a woman's identity to her adulthood, to attaining an adult sense of self-regulation of her emotions and a sense of her actions having consequences to others. We don't have that, because that's what man really means. It means that you have come to the point where you can regulate your emotions like an adult, and you have an adult level of self-awareness of your responsibilities and your actions' effects on others. That's what it means. The fact we don't have a word for that for girls, I think, is the real travesty here. Now, having said that, if we did have a word for that for girls, I think that the word be a man wouldn't be quite as devastating to boys.
Yeah.
Because
they knew that there were expectations placed on girls to be mature, to behave like mature young adults, as they get older, to continue developing emotionally, some sort of self-mastery, all of those things, consideration for others and all of that, right? Right now, be a man, like, maybe absent, maybe in this environment, in this current environment, where so many boys grow up without like a day-to-day adult male in their lives. Like they may get their first regular adult male role model, right, in their grade 8 math class or something like that. That will be the first man who's a responsible adult male who is in their lives on a regular basis, nearly every day, for a significant period of time, that they can look up to and aspire to be like, for a lot of boys, right? And so when you're sort of looking at the be a man in terms of certain boys who are vulnerable because they're growing up in single mother families and growing up inside essentially a matriarchy, and then they're looking to their same age and slightly older peers. So, this is a grade 6 boy, and he's looking to that 15-year-old who hangs out with him, who smokes pot and, steals bikes, because that's the 15-year-old who's willing to hang out with this little punk kid. And, so you essentially have a situation where if the only men in the room are, it's just sort of a Lord of the Flies kind of hierarchy in a high crime neighborhood, like, yeah, of course, they're going to get a skewed picture of what being a man is.
Yeah, well, stop allowing women to take their fathers out of children's lives.
Yeah. So
this is the only solution, except, of course, feminism would say, blah, 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 male privilege, men did it. Therefore, give women the right to take fathers out of their child's lives.
Yeah. Well, because men are all abusers, right? And that's
no, it's
fine. That's a perfectly fine message for boys, right? Be a man is a bad message, but that poster, that fucking billboard that said with a picture of a really cute kid who's like in grade 6 or some shit, right? Really cute boy with freckles, and the billboard says, "When I grow up, I'm gonna kill my wife, I'm gonna beat my wife," right? And I'm like, oh, that's a much healthier message for boys. Or how about how about awaiting instructions? That one poster, the kid's wearing awaiting instructions on his shirt, right? And the slogan is respect women, right? I guess that's the only criteria to be a man now.
Okay, well, I mean, let's feminist logic. Of course, saying a boy needs to man up and assume adult responsibilities is bad. But telling boys that they are culpable and inheritors of a system in which girls and women are subject to violence, that's not bad at all. I mean, it's just don't man up, but do know that you are a fucking bunch of little demons.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
You'll grow up into like horrible abusers, because that's what being a man is, according to feminists.
Without feminism, of course. If feminism doesn't intervene, all of these little kids here, these cute little kids, they're gonna grow up into vile monsters. They're like the pupae state of Cthulhu. Did you see them all? They're gonna start spouting tentacles and male privilege and patriarchy, and all they'll do is like rape 8 women at a time. That's it. Don't be deceived by their appearances. Feminism is here to tell you that these little fuckers, they're the demons.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be better for them. Oh.
And we're only just talking about society's messages to these boys, right? Like, I mean, we're not talking at all about biological differences and hormonal differences and things like that. I mean, this is just what society tells these boys, right? Be a man, grow up, master your emotions, don't let yourself be led around by a woman, right? Your life is yours, like, you shouldn't let anybody run it, especially a woman. You know, like these are all the bad messages, but you know, you're a potential abuser and rapist. That's a good message.
And if you achieve anything in your life, it's because of your male privilege, you privileged little fucking shitlords.
Yeah.
Why don't you just
you achieved it by stealing an opportunity away from a more deserving girl, is the message boys are getting.
Okay, so telling boys to man up is bad, but you know, shoving their noses in the shit of feminist demonization, that's good for them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ugh.
So, well, I mean, at least they can cry about it, you know, till they hit adolescence, and then.
Well, of course they can't cry about it. They need to accept this shit numbly.
Yeah.
They need to accept the demonization of all of this shit numbly. Because if they cry about it, that's illegitimate tears. The feminists want boys to cry, but only legitimate tears that feminists approve of. The others they will sip.
Yeah.
As a fine wine.
All right.
An idea of masculinity in the United States that doesn't give young boys a way to feel secure in their masculinity. So we make them go prove it all the time.
Yeah, that's called telling them that they need to take responsibility for violence against women or they're bad.
Yeah.
Like, how is this different than your own fucking message, Michael Kimmel? You think these little fuckers are going to grow up to be evil unless you step in and teach them to take responsibility for adult social ills.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ. I think this guy just really pisses me off.
Yeah, I know. He looks
like on a fundamental level.
He looks so smug too, right? Like he just barf.
Yeah, I mean, how can he simultaneously say, I give a shit about boys, which is why I want to pack their heads full of blame and judgment.
Yeah.
Like, Michael, go suck on a fucking tailpipe.
I know, and he's the director of the men's studies program at Sunnybrook University.
Unfucking believable. I mean, I can't even believe that these two people are posturing over boys being hurt by messages.
You know who's on the board of that program?
I don't know. Andrea Dworkin's ghost?
Gloria Steinem, Eve Ensler.
Oh, God.
I know. So.
This is what fucking burns me. They'll say telling boys to be a man, to become adults. That's bad. But they will pack these poor little kids' heads full of venom. The feminist venom about that, how they're responsible for either defeating patriarchy or somehow responsible for benefiting from it, and that they have privilege. They'll pack these poor little kids' heads full of that abusive venom. And then they'll turn around and say, oh, but these are the messages that really shatter little boys. No, I think the message that they have some sort of culpability in your Satan is the real thing that shatters their sense of self-esteem.
Well, what gets me is like, because Eve Ensler is like, she's like she's the rapinator. She can't stop talking about rape. It's all rape all the time. Vagina, rape, vagina, rape, vagina, rape, right? That's every talk she gives, right? And Gloria Steinem, actually, I think when we did a little bit of a Rantzerker on her, she started to, and I think that a lot of feminists have done this in sort of in their theoretical framework. She blamed problems like racism on men's obsession with controlling women's bodies, right? That male oppression of women and male control of women's bodies is the source of broader problems like racism.
Yep.
So I'm so glad they're on the board teaching young men and women what men are all about, what they're like, how they feel and think and behave, what motivates them, and that they're pretty much subhuman.
Yeah, like it's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
No, don't tell your boy to grow up to be. Don't tell your boy to man up. Tell your boy to take responsibility for his patriarchal privilege and remember that if he gets any perks or does anything in his life, it's not because he earned it. It's because he's a little shitlord. That'll really help his self-esteem.
Unless he ends up homeless, then that's his fault.
Of course, everything bad that happens to men is their own personal fault because they failed to avail themselves of all the privileges that patriarchy gives them at the expense of women. But anything good that happens is, of course, due to those patriarchal privileges given at the expense of women, not their own personal choices or actions. This is definitely a message to give boys that will improve their sense of self and self-worth.
Yep.
I totally believe it. Oh.
It's blah.
In their peer group,
It's
each of them is posturing based on how the other boys are posturing, and what they end up missing is what they each really want, which is
well, really, you know what they want. Let's hear what she says the boys want.
Look at this. Look at this.
They're just having fun.
really want, which is just that closeness.
In good times, guys are like really close to each other, but when things get a little bit worse, you're on your own.
From middle school, I had 4 really close friends. Once I kind of went into high school, I struggle finding people I can talk to because I feel like I'm not supposed to get help.
Okay, wait. Okay, so where are the okay, let's go to bricks and mortar here. Okay, so where's feminism? Where are the initiatives to help young men?
Yeah.
Through these psychological problems. Where are the brick and mortar initiatives? Where's the money, feminism?
Well, I mean, like there was, a guy who started a program. God, I forget what it was called. I'll have to go back and look. But it was essentially a program where, neighborhood dads go into schools, elementary and junior high schools, middle schools, and they just mentor boys. They just spend time in the classroom. They just volunteer. They and it's you just go in and help out and be in the classroom and be around the boys and the girls, right? Oh shit. That wasn't a feminist initiative. That was something that was actually presented by one of the panelists at the International Conference for Men's Issues that feminists tried to shut down. And death threats against not just MRAs, but hotel guests and staff.
Okay, all right. If you want to assume a position of beneficence over these problems that boys and men face, divert some of those billions of funding, dollars of slush that you get into programs, into brick and mortar fucking programs to help them.
Yeah.
Until then, shut the fuck up.
You know what would be nice too is if there could actually be a group in this school, maybe set up by this Ashanti branch person, right? Where it was just like after school, guys hang out, right? Maybe they have like a room in the school or something where they have, the setup for movies or whatever, you even have a Chromecast on the freaking thing and you can watch whatever YouTube videos you guys all like and just sit around and hang out. If they could actually have something like that without feminists screaming that girls are being excluded. They tried to have a boys in science, boys in robotics or something, because boys are falling behind in all areas of school, of primary and secondary school, right? They're falling behind. So they tried to do this night, boys in robotics, like night. And this girl, I think this was in Canada, this teenage girl objected and she managed to get the whole thing, made inclusive to girls and stuff. Well, no, it's there for a purpose. You're a straight A student. You don't need this. This is here to help boys who are struggling.
Well, the other thing is, taken your point, and I want to expand on it. The White Ribbon campaign in Ontario is basically a feminist initiative to go into schools and teach, just as boys' suicide rates are skyrocketing, they go into schools and they teach boys to take responsibility for violence against women and girls. These are the initiatives that feminists choose to spend money on. These are the initiatives.
These are the initiatives for boys.
To man up. That's essentially the White Ribbon Campaign is eventually man up and protect the women's. That's what it is. This is what feminists choose to spend money on in initiatives for boys, is to teach them to man up and protect the women's and take responsibility for violence against the women's. That's what they do. That's what they choose to do. That's what they choose to focus on. Even though the statistics from that age group suggest that girls are even more violent than boys. And also, they're talking to a group of people that is the most likely to commit suicide the next day. They're going in there to vulnerable boys, because they're in a vulnerable population. The most likely, they're going to the group of people most likely that you will go to their room one day and find them hanging dead in their fucking room. They're going to that population of people and telling them to take responsibility for violence against women.
Yeah, guilting them.
Instead of actually addressing their mental health issues. This is feminist logic. And this mask you live in, just remind yourself of what feminists choose to spend money on. They choose to spend money not on helping boys through the most vulnerable periods of their time, the times when they most likely to succumb to mental illness and end up either with their brains blown out or hanging themselves. They take that most vulnerable time in a boy's life and they choose to say, well, what is your effect on girls?
Yeah.
You need to man up and make sure you see yourself in terms of how you affect girls. This is what they choose to do. And then they have the gall to turn around and put forth this kind of crap.
Yeah.
And blame people telling boys to man up. I think we could probably do a hell of a lot more for men's mental health if feminists just removed all of their fucking initiatives.
You know what I thought was interesting too? Like, it was a couple years ago, Obama actually did something that was praiseworthy about men and boys. He looked at the two demographics in the US who are the least likely to finish school, the least likely to go to college, and the most likely to end up involved in crime, right?
Yep.
And black young men, right? So young black and Hispanic men. And he decided to target an initiative at young black and Hispanic boys while they're still in school, called My Brother's Keeper. And it was sort of like a peer mentorship program with and what did feminists do? They implored Obama to not forget our girls, right? Oh, how could you have this initiative and not include girls, or not have a parallel initiative for girls to pile onto the freaking gigantic steaming heap of other initiatives that are for girls only, right? Because we have this one for boys and we have these 50 or 60 for girls, right? Well, if we're going to do this one for boys, we have to add another one for girls, or we have to include girls in this one for boys, right? Which defeats the entire fucking purpose. To have an initiative for boys, right? To promote camaraderie among young men, promote male-male cooperation, promote all of these. And these are things that tribal societies have understood forever, right? Is that there is something about young men being together where there are no women or girls that helps them form necessary bonds with each other, right? And when you mix girls into that, it interferes with everything. It just does.
Well, yeah. Ooh.
Echo.
Can you mute me?
No, I don't.
What would you?
No, I have to mute myself, I think.
Yeah, I got you there. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the only thing that feminists have ever done is complain about initiatives to help boys and create initiatives to get boys even more. Like, and then you're supposed to expect, and when they turn around and they say, we advocate for with this stuff. Michael Kimmel, I'm going to tell you what this guy would like to do. You know what? You're demonizing him. Michael Kimmel would like to get rid of every boy on the planet. That's the sense that I get from him. and just replace all of the resources given to boys with resources given to girls. He just does not like men and boys.
Am I?
Yeah. Do you not have headphones at all?
No, my headphone jack is broke. My headphone port is broken. It doesn't work. So, and all of the people who have suggested and even offered to send me headphones, don't do it and stop making suggestions. My headphone port is broken.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what headphones I plug in there.
I'm going to leave. Come back in.
Okay.
You
Put do some more and respond to it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Fucking hate this shit. I hate this fucking shit. This guy looks like a nice guy. If he's actually going to be involved with feminists, he needs to realize that they're just a bunch of fucking bloodsuckers. God damn it. Okay, I'm going to play a little bit more. Just a little.
Kids get up every morning. They have to prepare their mask for how they're going to walk to school. A lot of our students don't know how to take the mask off. What is it you don't let people see? Almost not.
Anger. You don't let people see anger because your anger scares people.
Yeah.
And
My pain, my heart. Yeah, you don't do that for a different reason. And that's because people will go, wow, let me call you a wambulance. Oh, here, can I harvest some of your male tears? Like, God.
Oh God! This is the list of what boys have to do in order to live in a society that is feminist.
Yeah.
That the instant they say this affects me in this way, the instance that they say that this affects me in this way, society, like these issues, I mean, think about what feminism expects men to just endure. They do not want to give men equal right to their, or I know it's not saying equal right to their children. Let's call it children's equal right to their fathers. They don't want to have that. They have opposed this consistently. So they expect these young men to grow up and whenever their partner, their female partner wants, be able to eject them from their children's lives. Well, that will require, and not complain about it, because if they complain about it, they'll be one of those horrible men's rights activists. So look at what you're expecting these young boys, the role you're expecting them to play. Feminists, look at the role that you're expecting them to play by the initiatives you support. And see that stoicism is the only way to exist in a feminist society, in the role that you are expecting these boys to play, which is to just passively accept whatever choice a woman makes in terms of abortion, whatever choice a woman makes in terms of child custody, whatever choice a woman makes in terms of abuse. Because every time we talk about these issues facing men, you tell us to shut the fuck up. You don't want anyone talking about them. You don't want anyone acknowledging them. Well, the type of man who can get through life not acknowledging these problems that he faces, guess what? He's the type of man who's a stoic, who has a mask. And his mask is called feminism. All right, let's see if we can.
Okay.
We're just gonna have to alternate.
Okay, can you unmute me after I've been muted?
No, no.
Motherfucker. All right.
%90 of you had pain and anger on the back of that paper.
If you never cry, then you have all these feelings stuffed up inside of you, and then you can't get them out.
They really buy into a culture that doesn't value what we've feminized. If we're in a culture that doesn't...
What? And then suddenly we drop down the fucking feminist wormhole. It's really, they don't value, they're dropped into a culture that doesn't value feminine. Look, pain, sorrow, and anger are not feminine emotions. They are human emotions. We don't value that in boys, not because we don't value the feminine, it's because we don't value boys. We don't give a shit about their emotional landscape. We want to beat them till they're numb because we know that their value is in how useful they are to other people. How dare she? How fucking dare she say that these emotions are feminine? They are human. That's unfucking believable. How is it that people tolerate listening to this crap, this drivel?
You know what I think part of the problem is too, right? Is because boys and girls, they naturally go through a period of differentiation from each other. I mean, it's sort of, you go through and you look at things sort of anthropologically, and when they're really little, they play really well together, and then, they hit sort of that age where they're starting to go to school and they sort of self-segregate. And that's a natural process, for the most part, that, boys will play with other boys and girls will play with other girls. And usually there's some talk about cooties and, girl germs and boy germs and things like that, right? But that process happens somewhat naturally. This sort of self-choosing of same-sex friend groups or whatever, or groups to hang out with, because they're developing their gender identities so that when they come back together at adolescence, they're not looking at the opposite sex as, just playmates. They're looking at them as potential mates, right? And so you have this situation where we're sort of squishing boys and girls together. And, I have to say, I don't think it's that boys are holding back on this stuff because girls express it and they naturally would see anything that girls express as being the opposite of boy, right? Or, emotions that women express as the opposite of man, and therefore not for them. I just don't think that it's tolerated as well, even in boys, even by feminist trained teachers. It's just not tolerated as well. And they do have some natural behaviors that are different from girls. And I think that a lot of talking about how, a lot of, like Tom Golden said, all these men, they always hear you're not dealing with your emotions. And he's like, well, what? Because they're not emoting all over the place? That doesn't mean they're not dealing with their emotions or in touch with their emotions. It just means that, they're not expressing them the same way women do. And so it's so frustrating. Like, it's just another thing to guilt boys over.
Well, okay, I'm going to mute you so I can talk. First of all, I'm fucking amazed that they brought this woman who apparently thinks that boys aren't human. Having those emotions is a human quality. So it's not that they are saying that this is if she thinks that's feminine, that is disturbing. But regardless, if you're going to separate the genders into two groups of people, boys who are expected to take responsibility for their effect on girls, and girls who are expected to, I don't know, be emotional so that they give
be affected
by boys, then necessarily you are going to have to tell boys, don't be emotional like girls. And that is not something against, that is not misogyny, because both boys and girls would be served by being able to express their emotions and have somebody actually care about them. That's not misogyny. That's just setting up this fucking dynamic in which boys are expected to serve girls' emotions. And feminists are doing that constantly. They're constantly telling boys, oh, you have this effect on girls. You have that effect on girls. You got to take responsibility for girls' emotions in this way and that way and this other way. They're constantly setting up this dichotomy, this gender role that boys take a responsibility for girls' emotions and girls emote. So girls are essentially a scoring board for boys' actions. If the actions benefit girls' emotions, then they're good. If they don't, they're bad. They're just developing this system. But if you're going to be expected to take responsibility, your actions take responsibility for another person, for the girl's feelings, by necessity, that role is not going to be one of feeling, of emoting, of saying these are the effects of girls' actions on me. And what is the one thing that feminism absolutely refuses to look at? the effect of girls' actions on boys. Do you ever look, if you ever see a feminist campaign that actually looks and promotes the statistics coming out of teen violence, that girls are more violent towards boys than boys are towards girls? Do you ever see a feminist campaign doing that? No, because feminists are about supporting those gender roles. Boys have an effect on girls. Girls are affected by boys. And if they are going to turn around and say, oh, hey, look at that, boys are rejecting the gender role of being affected, of having emotions, fuck them. It's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If boys don't actually only see themselves in terms of their effect on girls, they're damned in feminist parlance. And if they have emotions, they're damned in feminist parlance. If they say, well, girls have this effect on me, they're damned in feminist parlance. It's like they're just damned.
Yeah, I mean, just like even looking at the, don't wear that to, oh, it's unfair to tell girls don't wear that to school, it'll distract the boys. Boys aren't even allowed to be distracted by the actions and choices of other people, to be distracted from their work. They're not even allowed that, right? So, I mean, it's essentially, it's almost like it's, this feminist approach is taking a problem, right, that may well exist, that, that we socialize boys in ways that cause them to, suppress their emotions, but they're actually asking them to suppress all kinds of other stuff as well, right? Oh, I can't allow myself to be this is why freaking Scott Aronson asked his fucking doctor to chemically castrate him when he was in college, right? Because he had it in his head, right, from all of this feminist programming, including the mandatory consent classes that he had to take, right, at the start of every year, that gave him nightmares for the entire, 2 full semesters, right? This bombardment of guilting over his ability to be affected by girls, right? So his ability to be affected by how a girl looks. He's attracted to her. He's being affected by her. Oh, but he's not allowed to feel that. If he's feeling that, he's harming her, right? If he's feeling that, he's dehumanizing her. And when you dehumanize a woman, that makes you a potential rapist, because this is rapists dehumanize their victims and all of this other crap, right? This is what messes these fucking guys up, especially the sensitive ones, right? The ones that who stand to be helped the most from an approach of being able to express your emotions, right? And I mean, like, it's just the saddest fucking thing, the absolute saddest thing, that they're actually binding these boys tighter within this sort of paradigm while saying, we're freeing you to express yourself. But they're just shifting the expectations, maybe just a little bit. Okay, you can cry, but don't you dare call a girl pretty, right? Or don't you dare call your grown teacher pretty, because if you do that, you're only 8 years old, but you're going to get suspended for sexual harassment, right? Like, so, I mean, like, dog, I will fucking kill you. Alison, did I or did I not let her out 5 minutes before we went on the air?
I'm pretty sure you did. Oh, still echo.
I'm going to fucking kill her. Okay, I'm going to mute myself and then we're going to move on. Unless you have more to say.
No, well, don't mute yourself because we have to listen to the thing. All right. So yeah, let's move on. Let's get through this. I think that if feminists want, let me just.
Okay. Do you want to say more?
No, let's go. Let's go.
Okay. All right.
Value caring, doesn't value relationships, doesn't value empathy. You are going to have boys and girls, men and women go crazy.
Okay, fuck that shit. If you raise boys to not value relationships, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle.
Yeah,
you don't need no man. A woman can be strong and independent. A woman can raise a family without a man. But men are now, after 40 or 50 years of that, boys and men are supposed to grow up valuing relationships.
All right, yeah, that's
relationships in which they are completely devalued. Sorry. Okay, mute me.
All right, so essentially what feminists seem to want to do is they want to say that girls don't need to value their relationships. They don't need to value their partners. Like, where is the feminist thing that isn't about saying, yeah, exactly what Karen was saying. Contempt towards your partner, contempt towards relationships with men. Saying that relationships with men are oppression. It sounds like you don't value relationships with boys and men. And then you turn around and say that boys and men are being taught not to value relationships with girls and women. That's bullshit. And it's also bullshit, this idea that boys are not taught empathy for girls. What is the constant thing that boys are told? Do not hit girls. What did you do to make her upset? Boys are constantly expected to serve girls' emotional landscape. And feminism is just an extension of that. By being chivalrous, by being conciliatory. And even the minor things that people do, like boys will be boys, or be a bit of a dick, to just push back against that chivalrous expectation that boys revolve themselves, boys and young men and men revolve themselves around women emotionally. Just push back against it a little bit. These individuals look at that and say that is society. No, it isn't. It isn't society because you are part of it. You're basically an institution that says that all that matters is how boys affect girls, not how girls affect boys. Just boys affect girls. How is it fucking possible you can go into schools and teach that without being a part of the social landscape? How? All right, Karen, go ahead. I'm going to mute myself.
I'm just fucking flabbergasted. It rustles my jimmies. Which my jimmies are allowed to be rustled because I am a woman, but don't let it rustle your jimmies, men, because, then you're just a whiny man baby. Or whatever, you're just a loser. But like, it blows me away how they can't see what they're doing. And the thing that just absolutely makes me want to cry is that they're simultaneously telling these boys, right, that these, quote, feminized emotions, right? Like pain, sorrow, uncertainty, fear, things like that. The feminized emotions and care for others and stuff like that, and sensitivity is, that is something that they should be allowed to do within this specific range of how to do it and over what you're allowed to express those things. But then that gets completely cut off, right? That gets that privilege of being able to express those things, even in the limited ways that they're allowed to, gets cut off when they become young men. And it's getting cut off by the very people who are the ones who supposedly want them to grow up believing that they can express that. And it doesn't get rewarded by women. Oh my God, I was just like watching a Bass Fizz or Bass Fizz or whatever Zers's video today, right? Where he went into SRS men, shit Reddit says men on Reddit, and read some of these posts, from these men who they're feminist men. They're still virgins. One of them was going to spend his 40th birthday crying because not only is he still a virgin, but he's never really had a woman in his life. He has no hope of having a family or a real relationship or being anything but lonely, right? And he lists off all of the ways that he has behaved, right? And they're all the things that, they're all these, what feminists say men should be, right? Always sensitive, always respectful, always never talk over a woman, always respect women's right to speak and never interrupt them, and be very cognizant of the fact that women are afraid of catcalling and then afraid of being approached by strange men, and never do this and never do that, and always validate women's experiences and all of this stuff, right? Where did it get him? 40th fucking birthday, still a virgin, no hope of having a family, no hope of having children of his own, no hope of having physical or emotional intimacy with a woman, right? And then he says, I know it's wrong for me to say this stuff because it means I'm entitled, right? I feel entitled to sex. And I'm just like, don't they?
It starts to feel, sorry to mute you.
I pity these men. I really do, because they're being set up.
It almost feels like this is deliberate. Like it's just, they just want to torture men. They just want to see them squirm. Or alternatively, they cannot imagine a world in which women have any effective agency. And that's even more creepy. I mean, they see a woman and they cannot see any possibility that her actions have any effect on anyone ever. So that they just can't see it. And thus they can't conceptualize that these boys might be upset because of girls' actions. Or not. And then, you know what the funny thing is, that if you look at the studies and the surveys, boys want to have relationships more than girls. And furthermore, I know there's probably some men going their own way that are probably gritting their teeth over what I'm saying, but survey-wise, that's true. There seems to be more of a focus on long-term relationship with young men than there is with young women, not surprisingly, considering what feminism says about relationships and is training girls to think about relationships. And the other thing is that men show just as much empathy as women. So what the hell are they on about? Like, there's no indication that boys are not any more invested in long-term relationships than girls, and there's no indication that boys are less empathetic than girls. If anything, they're more empathetic. So what the fuck what are these people on about? And it's like you start with this concern over boys' mental health, and then you start talking about, well, what's the effect on girls? And like I said, it seems like we're dealing with people who have the absolute and complete inability to see how boys can be affected by girls and how girls can affect boys, how girls can have actions that have consequences, and how boys can have reactions to those actions. And this is really the blindness. And ironically, it's the blindness of a traditional gender roles. And it's so frustrating because these people will turn around and say that we are the ones when it is them who are advocating not just traditional gender roles, because they actually worked within the context that they were, but these gender roles, the gender roles of feminism, which basically are to traditionalism, traditional gender roles, the way a Big Mac or junk food is to the kind of food that farmers had to eat to be able to get up in the morning and do 16 hours of labor during the day in cold, muddy weather. You know, you needed lots of fat, you needed lots of salt, you needed lots of starch to get yourself through that day. And now we're eating Big Macs, junk food, because we still have those instincts to crave it. And that's exactly what feminist gender roles are. They're junk gender roles. All the fat and salt and starch of traditional gender roles, none of the fucking nutrition. And we're just gorging ourselves silly on it. Okay, go ahead.
Agreed. It's actually an excellent way to put it. I would have said, sort of traditional gender roles on crack or on steroids or whatever, but no, the junk food of gender roles is really probably what describes it. It just really is. They just okay. I'm not going to add anything more. I'm going to move on. And here we go.
I had anger issues in high school. I felt like an outcast.
I've been suspended at least once every year I was here.
We would just look for trouble and just try to fight.
Boys are more likely to act out. They're more likely to become aggressive. Most people miss that as depression.
Okay. That's not necessarily depression. I'm just saying it's not necessarily depression. It can be indicative of depression because those are the symptoms that men are less likely to sit around crying and
just keep it on the video until I mute you. Because I'm not actually muting you right now. I'm going to let you speak and then.
Yeah, no, when men get depressed, they're less likely to like sit around eating Ben and Jerry's and crying, right? Like women do, or, you know, talking about how bad they feel to their friends, you know, in 3-hour long conversations that involve lots of crying. No, they are more likely to act out and more likely to behave aggressively and more likely to express it as anger. But boys' aggression and exuberance is not necessarily a sign that they're depressed. Like, this is pathologizing rambunctiousness as a mental disease. It's okay, go ahead.
It's a little awkward because I have to mute you, then unmute myself. Well, it may be an issue of depression, but what's the end result? Are you going to go in there and start giving boys mental health stuff, or are you going to go in there and start continue with white ribbon campaigns telling boys that they're responsible for violence against girls? Because that sounds like you're just going to continue with the latter, or was it the latter? That you're just going to continue with the white ribbon campaigns and try to expand it too. Because definitely, if this is an action, if this is depression, and this is what's interesting. Now he said that this is an effect. I think that you were too quick to dismiss this, Karen, because she said mental illness. So this aggression is an effect of depression. So in order to get rid of boys' aggressions, instead of teaching them not to hit girls, maybe you should give them some mental health therapy, or do something to help them become happier. Wait, making boys happy? Oh my God, that would be assisting the patriarchy.
Agreed. It's like when you sort of look at it, and it's like they do want to pathologize it, but at the same time, I mean, like there seems to be this double whammy now, right? Where the be a man type rhetoric was always described sort of historically as, this is the way you be a good, responsible man. This is the way your good, responsible manhood will benefit your family, benefit your wife, you know, and your children, and all of these things, right? It was the be a man thing. There was a huge onus on men to take responsibility for the people in their lives, including their mothers and their sisters and their brothers. And, you know, even my brother's keeper is gender roles. It's, you know, you got to look out for your bro, right? And so, like, but there's this double whammy now that these boys are hearing, that not only is the way they are, right, including the ways that they're going to act out when they're suffering something like depression, those things hurt others and hurt themselves. Masculinity doesn't just hurt others, it also hurts it. Like, everything about you doesn't just hurt everybody else, it also hurts you. You are the problem. This is all it is. You, what you are, what you aspire to be, which is a man, be a man. It's not a loaded term unless you make it one. That is harmful to everyone, including yourself, right? You are harmful. You are a harmful person. No wonder Scott Aronson wanted to be chemically castrated. All right, I'm done for now.
Okay, well, I just muted you, so because I wanted to add something. So this person is proposing that this aggression is actually a result of mental illness, not a result of internalizing these be a man narratives. Let's see where they go with it. Let's see where they go with this enlightening, because he just directly contradicted what other people have been saying in this. That it isn't a result of rejecting feminizing things or rejecting femininity. It's actually a result of depression, of being in pain. So why don't you just cue it up and let's listen to where they go with this.
Okay.
Or see it as a conduct disorder or just a bad kid.
I felt like just giving.
Okay, wait a second. All right, I'm gonna have to mute this. If you don't have to take it off. Keep it on the video until you're ready to unmute yourself. Okay. Here is the thing. They've just said less than 50% of boys and men seek mental health. Mental health is an aspect of self-care. If you go into middle schools and high schools and teach boys that their primary responsibility is to girls, they're not going to engage in self-care. This is insane. And also, if the result of your movement is primary funding is to go into high schools and teach boys to take responsibility for girls, what do you think is going to happen? Are you giving them the resources that you're telling for them to exploit? And then you put it all back on men and boys. You don't actually fund resources for their mental health, and then you put it back on them to seek out resources that don't exist for them. And where do you think this pain and depression is coming from? I could tell you one thing about depression. You know what depression is? It's swallowed anger. And you know where that swallowed anger is coming from? Because you are not recognizing how teen girls are hurting teen boys. And the statistics are there. They bear it out. Teen girls are more violent towards teen boys than boys are towards them. They are more abusive verbally. They are more abusive physically. And then you turn around and you tell those teen boys, take responsibility for violence against the people who are being violent towards you. You are forcing them to swallow their anger. And that is where they're getting their depression from. And then they go and they turn around and they take it out on other boys. And you look at that and you say, oh, toxic masculinity, better teach them to take responsibility for hurting the people who are hurting them. Fuck! All right, I'm done.
Okay. Agreed. Like it really is. They're just dumping, like, they're dumping blame. You know, like none of this is encouragement, right? None of this is encouraged. Like, when feminists and, you know, pro-feminists and, you know, when they go in and they're like, there's a problem with girls, right? There's a problem with girls. The problem is that they don't feel like they can go into STEM fields, or they don't feel like they're capable of doing this. So what do, right? They start campaigns like Ban Bossy, right? So we have to change the world to suit girls' needs. They're underachieving in school, which they weren't, by the way, when that report came out from the American Association of University Women. Girls were already doing better than boys at every level of education when they released their report about girls being shortchanged, including things like, in the report, they said, boys get more attention in the classroom than girls, and we don't think that's fair. But when you actually pay the $150 to get the unbound, loose, freaking, 100-page study, right? You find that, okay, but it's because boys are getting negative attention, right? So boys get so much negative attention that they overall get more attention, period, than girls do, right? So, I mean, this report lied through its teeth. But what did we do? We changed the entire way the school system works, from everything from how we arrange classrooms, as opposed to rows of desks. We started putting them the kids at round tables where they can work collaboratively and cooperatively, because girls do better that way. And, many more, arts and crafty kind of projects, and started teaching in a different way, and really, went out of our way to encourage girls in ways that would help them do better because of how they are naturally, right? We adjusted the environment to suit the girls, okay? Every single fucking STEM fields, right? We have to change how STEM works, right? Including getting rid of any misogyny that might be there in order to make it safe, and welcoming for girls to go into, and young women to go into those fields when they hit college, right? And university. We have to change the environment to suit these girls. But what are they doing here? What are they going to suggest here?
Let's find
out. They didn't recommend, we should have these girls who are having these problems with their self-esteem or their self-concept or their confidence or whatever, right? Those girls need therapy. Nothing else needs to change. Those girls just need therapy, right? Because the problem is with them and their inability to cope, right? And so they need help learning how to cope and learning how to feel confident in themselves.
Not just that.
What they're doing with these boys is they're saying essentially, we're not going to change the system. We're not going to change how school works. We're not going to require girls to accommodate anything, regarding. We just want you to change yourselves. We'll help you change yourself, but you know what? Yourself is so harmful to not only others but to yourself that it needs changing. We'll help you do that. Okay, go ahead.
All right. They're saying that not only are they not going to change the system to help boys who are suffering, but they're not going to fund mental health. At the same time, they're not going to actually fund any mental health initiatives for boys or anything that might help improve boys' mental health. Not going to change the system. They're not going to change their message to boys. They're not going to change their funding streams so that boys get mental health services or any other kinds of services that might help, like mentorship programs, like programs for boys to come together and do things. Nothing like that. And at the same time, they're going to blame boys for not seeking out services that they don't fucking get.
I don't know. I just remember, like when my older two were in school, we were in a small town. It was a very small school, only 95 students. And so they had the same teacher, and she was a wonderful teacher. Rachel had her for 5 years and Jack had her for like 4 years. And, but this teacher, she was absolutely wonderful. You could just tell, I mean, like she was a drill sergeant, but you could just tell that she loved these kids. She really cared about them and all of this. Right. And when the boys would start getting rambunctious, and there was, occasionally one or two girls like my daughter who would get rambunctious and restless and just couldn't pay attention and were disrupting the class and all of that. You know what she did? She would make them go out and run 3 laps around the school. Just go outside and run 3 laps around the school, and then come back in. And these kids would come in exhausted. They've really run off their steam. They're ready to actually get down to work, right? And boys have different needs than girls, and we're not just refusing to change the environment to suit boys. We've been changing it consistently over decades to make it suit boys less and less. So eliminating recess, getting rid of certain playground equipment because, kids fall off of it and stuff like that. Getting rid of certain things that they're allowed to do on, like when my daughter got into an altercation with a tree and lost on her sled, that was the end of sledding at that school. Even though I told the school, I walked in to pick her up and took one look at her face, and I was like, what does the other guy look like? And she said Barky. And and I told the school, I said, don't worry about it. Stuff like this happens. Kids hurt themselves. There's no blame on the school. Absolutely 100%. I would be devastated if the rules changed and kids were not, next day she brings her sled to school and there's no sledding allowed anymore. Right. So, I mean, like, essentially we've taken all of these sort of really kinetic physical activities and all of this stuff that help boys run off their energy, and all of the jostling that they showed in some of the clips of boys just, jostling, just I'm going to try and steal your hat, and then we're going to play keep away, and the boy manages to keep his hat, he runs away laughing, right? I love seeing my boy, my youngest, interacting with other boys in those ways. It tells me he's normal, right? And but we are kind of policing all of that natural boy behavior out, and we're not giving them any way for them to even exercise it on their own, right? When they redid the playground across the street from my house, they safety-fied all of the equipment. And now hardly any kids play there anymore because it's just not fun. Yeah, fewer kids get hurt, but it's just not fun. So it's kind of like, what are we doing? We're not just taking these boys and saying, you have to behave in this environment and we won't change it for you. We're actually continuing to change it to suit them less and less, and saying it's up to you to adjust to this and to change yourself to conform to this environment. Okay, I'm done. Are we moving on?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I actually had suicide thought to my head at 6th grade.
I felt alone for a long time, and I actually thought about killing myself.
Whether it's homicidal violence or suicidal violence, people resort to such desperate behavior only when they are feeling shamed and humiliated, or feel they would be if they didn't prove
Sorry, just banana.
that they were real men.
Oh, give me a break.
Or how about shamed and humiliated by feminist rhetoric that makes them take responsibility for problems, all the problems in society, violence against the teen girls who are statistically more likely to be violent against them. Makes them take responsibility for that, and also adult women who may actually be violent against them as well. And it makes them take responsibility for all of that, and shames and humiliates them, and says that if they succeed, it's because of male privilege. If they fail, it's because they're worthless. I mean, does feminism not have no responsibility for teaching boys shame and guilt? I mean, if I were a boy and I listened to the feminist rhetoric, that staccato beat of constant freaking telling me that I am responsible for all of the ills of society, I am responsible for oppressing women as an inheritor of the patriarchal matrix, as part of the patriarchal matrix, and that my male privilege means that anything that I succeed at isn't really my own success, but something granted to me by these hateful bigots who I'm supposed to in turn hate because they are men oppressing women. If I was told that all my fucking life by feminists, I would be somewhat suicidal too. If I had that much shame ladled into my brain constantly by government-sponsored propagandists, I might be somewhat suicidal as well. And in addition to that, it's not just the pressure to man up, it's the pressure to define yourself in terms of benefiting other people, which is a very, very traditional role for men. And yeah, when you're in that state, you don't think you deserve any kind of self-care. And even worse, you don't think that you can get angry at the people who expect so much from you. Simultaneously expect so much from you, expect to take all responsibility for the violence against girls, and suck up any of the violence that they do to you, but you can't get angry at them. Because if you get angry at feminists, you're one of those bad misogynists. So you're expecting these boys to swallow a shit ton of anger as a feminist. You're expecting to pack them to the gills with anger and swallow it all and not make a fucking peep. And then you have the gall to turn around and say that they're suicidal and depressed. Well, yeah, because you're forcing them to swallow their anger at your bullshit.
Well, it is kind of because it has been it is a society that sets boys up in such a way that you're expected to succeed because you have to be useful, right? One of the worst things that you can tell a man that will hit him harder than anything else, at least blue pill men, is that you're useless, right? And these boys, you can't expect these boys to be red pill. They're blue pill, right? And being told that you're useless, and then having the system stacked in such a way that it favors girls, right? And therefore you feel useless compared to girls if you can't achieve at least as much as they can, right? You're handicapped there, so you feel useless if you don't achieve the way the girls do, with all of the head starts and all of the encouragement and all of the changing of everything to suit these girls, right? And all of the things that you're deprived of, like fun at recess and being able to run around and have fun and play with your friends the way you like, and all of this other stuff, because that's aggressive and that's bullying and that's blah, 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 right? And it's just not, and people get bruises and stuff. And then you put them in a world where they've been sort of pushed down and pushed aside, and then tell them, right, that not only are you useless, but we've taken away your ability to actually achieve any kind of power, but we've also imposed all of this responsibility on you, right? So it's, and we're going to talk about you as if you and everybody like you has this sort of amorphous power over women and girls. And it's just like, it's such a mind fuck. It's like, it's gaslighting. We are gaslighting these boys and then wondering why they're having problems figuring out who they are and where they belong and what their role is, and, you know, whether they have a role at all. I mean, like, a man who commits suicide is a man, not a man who feels like he could be shamed necessarily for not being. It's a man who feels like he has no role. It's a man who feels like he has no role, no purpose, right? And that.
Shit, sorry, Karen.
That's the saddest thing. That's the saddest thing of all is that we have a system where boys are essentially taught that they need purpose, they need to be useful, and then we're painting them into this corner where that's just becoming more and more impossible for them to actually achieve. And then the ones that do achieve it get guilted for it.
Yeah, because it's because of male privilege. It's like, okay, I can clear all of this up, this confusion about why boys are suicidal to these individuals who created this shit piece. The reason why boys are committing suicide is because you spend infinitely more, like how much was on the, like $1 million going into schools, teaching boys to take responsibility for violence against a group of people that's statistically more violent than they are. And you have spent zero on any mental health initiatives for boys. Zero. That's why they're suicidal. Because of you fuckers. All right, can we just, I'm starting to get fucking annoyed.
Well, I just loved it. Someone from Alberta who actually does this as his job years ago on Reddit, he posted a breakdown of spending for female-only programs and male-only programs and initiatives for the government of Alberta. He tabulated it all. He added it all up, and it was in the tens of millions for girls, and women, and it was 57,000 for men for the year spent on initiatives and programs for men and boys. So that shows you where everybody's priorities are.
If you're told from day one, don't let nobody disrespect you, and this is the way you handle it as a man, respect is linked to violence.
If I can man up, why step down from that? You feel me?
It's like instinct.
So man up, man up, man up, man up. Pull some fucking balls. Act like a man. Be a man.
Banana.
For my kids, I was going to end this hyper-masculine narrative here.
Right. Hyper-masculine narrative. You know, I have actually, while you're dealing with that, I have actually an interesting story. And it's going to go a bit of a digression. Sometime in, I guess, the high Middle Ages, people in Europe, and I can't give you specifics of which country started the institute. I think it was all across Europe. They started to be very concerned about breeding horses and horse bloodlines. And prior to this, they would just let stallions run with the herd. And they just let them breed as they did, and they would take a foal and break them when it was required. But otherwise, they just let horse herds just sort of do their thing. And the way that horse socialization is that there generally isn't just one male horse to a whole bunch of females. There generally is a bunch of males, and they'll hang out, and they'll hang out with the females, and they'll hang out with the colts, and they're very social creatures. Stallions are very social creatures, and in that environment, they were just a regular, well-adjusted horse. But what happened in, I guess, the high Middle Ages, they started to be very concerned about breeding and making sure that specific stallions bred. So they started to neuter those animals, those male animals they didn't find had good conformation. And what they did to the stallions they wanted to breed is that they put them in stalls. Stallion actually means stalled one, as in a prisoner of a stall. And they started to put these stallions in stalls. And what happened is what usually happens when you take a social animal and isolate it from his family and his social contacts and put him in a prison. They went nuts. And ever since then, stallions have had a really, really bad reputation as being psychotic animals, psychotic, violent animals. And we always sort of just blame it on the fact that they're stallions. No, they're male horses. Male horses are just, intact male horses are just monsters. It's because they have their balls, not because we put them in stalls that they behave like this. It's really toxic stallininity that really causes it, not toxic imprisonment that causes this kind of social behavior in stallions. And lately, there has been some movements to actually return stallions to their proper environment of being social animals. And lo and behold, when you raise a stallion in a social environment and he grows into a full adulthood, he is a very social animal, very well adjusted. When you don't expect these unnatural things from him, he's not violent. Now, what's interesting is that these individuals are blaming. They're essentially saying there's something called toxic stallioninity, rather than saying, no, this is a result of our expectations on boys. And not the expectations of men on boys, but the expectations of the group of people who are served by putting stallions in boxes. That's where the toxicity comes in. The expectation that boys put girls first emotionally is the box that boys are put in. And the fact that they become violent because they are depressed, because they are expected to swallow their anger at the girls who are being violent towards them. That's the other thing. When a stallion lashes out, it's often because he's abused. And when these boys have to swallow the abuse and the expectation that they put girls emotionally first, when they swallow that and become depressed and then end up lashing out violently, mostly towards other boys, we turn around and call it toxic masculinity, when in fact, it feels a lot more like toxic femininity.
I would have to agree with you there. I think it's just a shame that they really seem unable to step back from the feminist framing of everything, the male privilege, female oppression framing of the whole thing. A lot of feminists, they mock the idea of gynocentrism. Gynocentrism is not it's not a negation or a rebuttal or a refutation or whatever, a denial of male dominance. It's really not. It's actually proposed as sort of one of the primary causes of male dominance. At least the way I see it, the way a lot of men's rights activists see it, right? When women are the center of society, just like we were talking about with Teal Deer on Monday, right? When you have this group of people who are expected to do for the other, to protect them, to keep them safe, to provide for them, those are the people, that group they're the people who end up becoming dominant because they're the ones who are doing things, right? They're the ones who are doing things. And doing things essentially means that, you know, like in all of the areas of doing things and deciding things and all of that, you're going to be overrepresented in that group of people, because you're doing things and you're deciding things for other people, right? The people that you're supposed to be doing them for, right? And it's like, fuck me. They can't break away from this idea that it's all men's fault, that men have all the power, that women have none, that women have nothing to do with anything other than as the passive recipients of a society that men constructed solely based on how well it served men and oppressed women. That seems to be the entirety of their way of looking at things. And it's just so fucked up. And it's such a disgusting narrative to feed to boys, to say not only, because I mean, like the boys 200 years ago, they were hearing all of these things about serving women, about putting women first, putting girls first, all of these things. They were hearing all of those things. It's your responsibility. This is your responsibility as a man, right? They were hearing all of that, but they were not hearing, but you're also, by doing that, you're also oppressing these people, right? And if you are successful at doing that, you're an even bigger oppressor. And not only that, you have to take responsibility for the oppression that your grandfather and your great-grandfather, going all the way back to the Code of Hammurabi or whatever, right? All the way back to then, you have to take some culpability for all of that oppression, right? Even though we're going to expect you to maintain and perform the actions that led to what we're describing as oppression of women.
All right.
It's fucked up.
All right. I'm just muting you because you just the echo. But yeah, well, like I was saying, using my analogy, we put stallions in stalls to benefit ourselves, and then we blame the stallions for behaving like a creature, a social creature that's been isolated from its kind, behaving like a lunatic. And it's the same thing with boys. We put them in a box. We put them in an emotional box. We expect them to swallow their emotions in order to put girls' emotions first. And feminists do this more than anyone. And then we complain when they become depressed, suicidal, and in very, very rare cases, homicidal, which we seem to be way more concerned about than the suicidal. I mean, honestly, a boy will blow his own brains out 20 times more often than he will ever turn the gun on anyone else and then himself. So that's even a misnomer. But we will blame him for the effects of what benefits girls. Putting boys in these boxes benefits girls because it puts girls first. It puts the spotlight on girls' needs. It puts the spotlight, and then we justify this by saying, well, boys behave rather erratically and violently towards girls. Well, because they've been put in a fucking box and they don't even do it that much towards girls. They don't even do it as much as girls do it towards boys. So we have this entire situation where people are blaming the stallion for being in a box, for being violent because not because he's been put in a box, but because he's obviously a stallion. So it's not really, it's because he still has his balls. It isn't because we cut them off and allow him to still be social. It's because he still has his balls that he's violent. Not because he's in a box. Not because we've totally changed his environment to suit ourselves, to benefit ourselves. Not because we've totally changed and had the boys' expectation to put girls first. That's not why boys are violent. They're just violent because. They're just violent because that's just the way they are. Because patriarchy. And the very system that allows us to put these boys in boxes allows us to blame them for it too. And also to beat the stallions that we put into boxes and then complain when they get violent. Oh, that's just the toxic stallionity. It's just the toxic masculinity. Not because we put them in a box and beat them. No. Let me tell you something. Whatever you do to boys, they will do to themselves 20 times more often than they will do to the world. But there will be a one boy who what you do to him, he will do back to you. And guess what? You deserve it.
Agreed. Like this whole thing just fucking blows my mind. Anyhow.
I think it's good.
I think it's
Let's
good.
do a show.
Let's do a show.
Okay, we're
For
gonna
the channel.
For the channel.
All right, if you've enjoyed this,
Oh,
this lovely echoing.
Lovely echoing.
Okay. All right. I'll mute myself. God damn.
Okay, so if you've enjoyed this Rantzerkering, we do several Rantzerker, well, 2 Rantzerkers a week, and you can find them in a playlist on the Honey Badger Radio channel. And please do listen to them, because let's face it, you don't want to swallow your anger. That causes depression. We're going to do more for you than these feminists. They'll give you a reason to be angry. We'll invite you to let it out, and then do something productive with it. Like, I don't know, putting up posters or looking for or starting a group to actually give young boys or young men the companionship they need to get over their depression and process their anger. All right, there you go.
All right, that's it. I've got updates coming tomorrow, and I will see you all then. Bye.